cares down at my feet. Come and find your rest in me.
So today I want to talk to you about healing your heart. I developed a process for essentially creating your own personal roadmap to healing your soul wounds. It came about as a result of my own healing journey. One night after I'd had a tremendous healing and my brain was just firing synapses back and forth, and I went downstairs and just wrote out this whole process of how mine had unfolded and then how I could share it with others in a much more efficient manner than my unfolding was. So essentially what I discovered on my healing journey was that there's essentially like 4 phases to our healing process. The first of which is old wounds, the second of which is the awakening, the third is healing thoughts and actions, and then the fourth one is onward and upward. Those 4 phases happen both chronologically and simultaneously, because the healing process, as you know, there's so many healers here, is an evolution. It's an evolutionary process that's ongoing. We're kind of like this onion, and we're never just healing one wound at a time. Life is constantly sending us opportunities to heal various wounds, and so those wounds can be in the different cycles of that evolutionary process. So on this journey of our life, we travel along this path that is mixed with pain, fear, anger, and exaltation, and every emotion in between. Those emotions make up the quilt that is the fabric of our life. The most powerful thing to understand is that we have a choice about how we view our life. We have a choice about whether we will view the unfolding events of our life through a negative lens or through a positive lens. The most empowering thing that we can do on our journey is to step out of the passenger seat and into the driver's seat of our emotional life so that we can take command and lead toward the destiny that we were put here for, to live the highest version of ourselves. What I have discovered after many years of studying with some of the most powerful peak performance coaches and mentors, as well as in the healing journey with healers, is that I have to understand what my global metaphors are, which means I have to understand what my core beliefs are at the subconscious level, because 98% of everything we do is run by our subconscious mind. Our conscious mind is really responsible for so little. The challenge is that our subconscious mind, these global metaphors, are established by the time we're probably about 7 years of age. We have had the unfolding events of our life unfold, and our little 5, 6, 7-year-old minds are trying to make sense of everything that is unfolding for us. And so what it does is it starts collecting all this data and starts establishing global metaphors. So a child who is raised in a violent home may develop a global metaphor that says, the world is a dangerous place and I'm not safe. When you operate with a global metaphor such as that, you're going to live a very constricted life. You're going to be very afraid to step out of that comfort zone, and you're going to remain there. If you want to expand your life, everything that we want that we do not yet have in our life is outside of our comfort zone, which means we must train ourselves to constantly be pushing ourselves to do things that we're afraid of, say something that we're afraid of, be in the moment, say how we feel, tell someone we love them, even if we're not sure if they'll say it back. These are the types of things that we need to do. So the Healing Your Heart protocol that I developed was a way to teach people how to extract those global metaphors, to sit down and create a journey line of their life so that you could mark down the most traumatic, and we all know them, the most traumatic experiences of our life that have caused us the deepest pain. And then on that journey line, when we've extracted those benchmark moments that have been pivotal experiences that have helped shape who we are and what we believe and how we live our life, then we identify what was the global metaphor that came from that. Once you identify what the global metaphor is, and they're usually negative, unless you've grown up in an incredibly nurturing environment, and I've yet to meet someone who ended up having positive global metaphors, then once you know what they are, now you can go about the healing work, and EFT and I'm sure many other healing modalities can help to reverse that. Once you identify what those global metaphors are, now you can construct as an adult the new global metaphor at which you wish to live your life by. And that is that instead of it's the world is a dangerous place and I'm not safe, the world is a loving and compassionate place and I'm safe and protected at all times. Do you think that you would have a different life if you lived by that second global metaphor? Mm-hmm. What would be different? How many chances would you take? How much risks would you take and go out there? And how powerful would you feel if you felt safe? You know, there's so many people that I talk to, and the biggest piece that is missing for them is feeling safe, right? If we do not feel safe, how do we move forward with strength and certainty? It's very, very difficult. So by understanding what these global metaphors are, and then choosing to rewire our subconscious mind and consciously decide the blueprint by which we want to live our life, you can massively shift the quality of life that you have. Because you're no longer a victim. You are no longer sitting blind in the passenger seat of the car of your life, running off of a blueprint that was written by a 7-year-old. Does anyone think that might be powerful to shift? So, in the 4 phases of healing, so there's the old wounds, then there's the awakening, the healing thoughts and actions, and onward and upward. So the old wounds we've kind of just covered how that works. The awakening. So what happens in the awakening? The awakening is when you start having those shifts. You're starting to see those kind of tectonic shifts inside where something is rising up inside of you and it's telling you it's time. And we all experience these things, these moments in our life, these benchmark moments where something is rising up and you know that major shifts are coming, that your subconscious mind is now ready to learn, to break out of this new pattern, and you are awakening. It's very scary because it's all new territory, right? So even the misery we know is better than the uncertainty that we don't. The fear of the unknown is terrifying. But when you have that awakening process, it's very empowering, right? To embrace it fully, to start journaling and start really engaging fully in that process. What I found was when I stepped into the awakening process, I became acutely aware of 2 sides of me. There was the frightened child within, and then there was the wild tigress. And I think you may know it, I hope you know what that means, but if you don't, I'll share it with you. So the frightened child is that 5-year-old that had these traumatic experiences, these wounds, these soul wounds that made me feel that I was less than, that I was not worthy of, that I was not good enough, right? Whatever that is, not smart enough, not pretty enough, not good enough, whatever. But then, as the awakening is happening and you start meeting that other side of you, that wild tigress, the wild tigress is that part of you that is rising up with fire and passion and is ready to now finally, at this juncture in your life, to own your voice and start establishing boundaries. And what I have seen unfold for many people in my life is that when we start finding our voice, you're going to find that there's going to be a lot of friction in your life. Because the people in your sphere of influence who are not used to you having your voice are going to become very uncomfortable. Because now you're changing the whole you're changing the entire dynamic of the relationship, and now you're starting to put up boundaries, right? That wild tigress who's there, who has that fire and passion to protect you, she's going to now start putting up healthy boundaries. Not walls to keep people out. Healthy boundaries, just to keep you safe and to keep you honored and protected and respected. So when that wild tigress starts to come out, it's a tremendous growth opportunity because now you have to start living those boundaries, right? So you start speaking those boundaries into reality, and now you start living them, and now all the friction comes back from the people that you love, who are used to walking all over you and violating your space. Now that's not happening, and so now it's that journey of finding your voice to say, this no longer works for me. That might have been the me in the past, but this is the me at this moment, and this me does not accept that anymore. And you deliver that information with love and compassion and strength and power. You don't deliver those boundaries with anger and rage and resentment. You want to deliver it healthfully. And the most powerful way that you can learn to find your voice and start speaking those boundaries healthfully from love and compassion is by taking a very conscious approach to the releasing of your anger. Because when you are awakening and all of these wounds are rising to the surface, you're going to find there's a tidal wave of emotions that start bubbling to the surface. So one of the exercises that I have people do in terms of releasing their anger and their rage and resentment, because those are triple brew of poison, is by sitting down and journaling and just getting really quiet and journaling as much as they can about everything they're angry at. Every person that they're angry about, for every reason that they're angry, and then do the same thing with rage, and then the same thing with resentment, and have it flood out of you, pour it out of you, because when you do that, that is a healthy way to process your anger, as opposed to the way the most of the unconscious world deals with their anger, which is really by passive-aggressive behavior. That's how most anger comes out. But the problem is that it comes out, it's kind of like steam coming out, but there's never any resolution because it's not consciously being processed. It's just kind of spewing out over the pot, and it spews out all over the people you love. And good, loving people act passively aggressively to the people around them unconsciously because they have not processed their anger. When you consciously process your anger, you empower yourself, and then you reach a place within yourself where you've released so much of it that you are organically happier, you're organically more joyful. You're not pushing anything down. And I remember he's now 14, but my son said to me maybe 2 years ago, after I had done a tremendous amount of work, I had really done some deep soul diving work, and he looked at me one day and he said, "You never get angry anymore." I don't need to. I consciously was very aggressively, consciously releasing it because I knew that that would be my path to peace. When you are repressing anger, rage, and resentments from the wounds of your childhood, you will never find peace. You have to release it consciously, healthfully. So that was old wounds, and then there's the awakening. Healing thoughts and actions, that integrates all of these things about discovering what your global metaphors are, consciously deciding who you want to be, consciously deciding to release your rage and your anger and your resentment, consciously designing the life that you want to live and the vibration that you want to live it, pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, saying the things that you're afraid to say, finding the courage to be present and open and living with an open heart. And then the final stage is onward and upward. What I found is that, and I'm sure many of you know this as your healers in the room, that once you have gone through a huge cycle of change and healing, and you've reached a point of completion with a certain wound, where you are truly at peace with it, and you have gained some certain insights as to what that specific wound taught you, you have an organic desire to help others get out of pain too, and you think, how can I use my wounds and my pain to serve others? How can I use this pain as fuel to transform pain into power? So if you can actively engage those 4 stages of the healing process, old wounds, the awakening, healing thoughts and actions, and onward, upward. And if you constantly live in that cycle and understand that you're in multiple stages at multiple times, and you're just this organic being who is evolving, but just know that every single day when you engage this work, every day gets a little lighter. I have found that every healing session I've ever gone, I felt lighter, I left something behind. You get stronger and life gets easier. You find there's less resistance, you're more comfortable, you feel safer to trust and be open the way Juanita said, she just trusts. The more that we can open our heart, the easier it is for us to trust, and the easier life becomes. and then we have a greater ability to impact others. When we live with an open heart, an open mind, with our walls down but our boundaries set, we find that we can have a very healthy life and a more joyful life. And then when we do that, it's when we are joyful and fulfilled, we organically become a stronger leader, and people are drawn to you and want to live their life like you, and you just become a light leader organically. Thank you very much.
Thank you.